Morning, USA, and welcome to another scintillating. I better have more coffee here. Scintillating episode of the Bernie or Bust Show, brought to you this morning by shade-grown organic coffee and cruelty-free organic eggs, mixed with flaxseed, if you can believe it. We're starting off today with the prospect of an Elizabeth Warren nomination should be very worrying. I would go so far as to say terrifying. It's just because it's so likely to happen. What we've got now is Elizabeth Warren leading in the Iowa polls. That's very troubling. I've shown in past episodes how the Clinton machine has swung support behind Warren. I predicted that a while ago, and it has come to pass, and the polls are showing that. They've pretty much abandoned Biden, and the money people, the Wall Street people, the cabal in Hollywood that I've talked about before, has swung around behind Elizabeth, and her numbers are going up. I was checking that on Real Clear polling yesterday, so it isn't just Iowa. So this brings us to an article by Nathan J. Robinson about the differences between Warren and Sanders. He starts off with the common assumption among liberals, especially white liberals, especially suburban, well-educated, well-off liberals, that there is no difference. I noticed in the United Kingdom that the liberals in the United Kingdom have swung behind Elizabeth. They are talking her up from across the pond because they understand that the oligarchy will not be disrupted by her, as opposed to the way things would be with Bernie. Bernie is an existential threat to the oligarchy. So here is Matthew Iglesias of Vox. He's speaking for these privileged neoliberals. He says, "There is no difference between Warren and Sanders that is worth worrying about for even a minute of your life. And it's frustrating how many people are committed to making things up about this." I think we need to explain some things to Matthew. Perhaps on Twitter you'll be able to find his account, YGLESIAS. Yeah, that's devastatingly strategic and tactical and ugly and just plain wrong. What is the main difference that we need to focus on with Sanders and Warren? Strategy. Bernie's strategy is to build a movement via labor unions. Warren's strategy is to keep wagging her finger and making plans without any power behind it. The only possible power that could disrupt the oligarchs is from the labor class, from the labor force. We can't get any traction. We can't get any power behind change. We'll just be incrementalists forever and get nothing done unless we can get the labor force hooked up to the machinery that will actually change things. One of the most important things Bernie Sanders has ever said is this: I'm going to run the presidency differently than anyone else. I'm not only going to be commander-in-chief, I'm going to be organizer-in-chief. That means Sanders is not going to stop speaking on picket lines when he becomes president, just as Trump hasn't stopped holding rallies. It was a critical mistake that Barack Obama made. He stopped organizing when he got into office. If you do not organize, if you are not constantly out in the country helping get candidates elected at every level, you will hold the White House and nothing else. Warren focuses on plans while Sanders focuses on power. Everyone knows Elizabeth has a plan for that, but if those plans are going to go anywhere, you need Sanders' political revolution. You need to overthrow the existing Democratic Party, at least in the leadership, in the DNC, and in Congress. You need to threaten to run primary candidates, not just threaten to run. You need to run primary candidates against anyone who doesn't support your agenda. You need a giant on-the-ground operation of people who will lobby for your agenda and convince Americans that anyone who opposes it needs to be ejected from office. I would eject Elizabeth first thing if she were. I think that she, as a sneaky faux progressive, is a more potent enemy by far than Joe Biden. Elizabeth Warren is a law professor. Barack Obama was a law professor. He came up with a plan. If he didn't have the votes in Congress to pass it, that was that. The plan was dead. The law professor accepts political reality as fixed. That's what's been going on for the last 70 years. The wonky people accept political reality. They say they get things done, but they get tiny things done that never add up to real justice, economic justice, or for that matter, saving our planet. We have to get millions of people to act politically in order to alter what Barack Obama or Warren would consider as fixed. Hillary Clinton clearly saw a lot of reality that wasn't changeable. This is why we can't do that, she would be saying. And Bernie would imagine outside of the box because he was imagining a labor force that was activated. It's very clear that Bernie Sanders thinks the political revolution he's talking about involves building the power of unions. His workplace democracy plan contains a dozen ways of making it easier to join unions and giving unions more leverage. Who else is saying that? Who else in either party is saying that? It's because once a much greater percentage of working class people were unionized. So if we can get them unionized again, unions will once again become an important political force. Their endorsements or non-endorsements will matter, which will give the left greater power to reward or punish Democratic politicians based on whether they support a left agenda. This is critical to actually getting our plans through. And let's make it clear what a left agenda is. It means power to the people. It means democracy. It means people deciding for themselves instead of money from a few people deciding things. Truly, democracy. You can't have democracy unless people have power. In our money system, power and money are the same thing. So to get things evened, to get things fair, to get the playing field leveled, we need to get the money redistributed. And that's war. That's class warfare. That's economic warfare. That's not wagging our fingers at the people on top and hoping they are going to reform themselves. That's why Elizabeth Warren is an existential threat, because she is palatable to Wall Street and she's palatable to the white liberals, the elitist neoliberal suburban voters who would vote for a corporate sock puppet and would accept Elizabeth as a substitute. That's not going to work, folks. We've got to get behind the only candidate who's going to unionize our workforce and use them as the engine that drives the change. Please, please share this video with your union friends, especially, but also make sure that the people who don't want to hear it also hear this message, because the people who get it are waking up, and they aren't just traditional Democrats. A lot of them are populists who would vote for anyone who can change the status quo. So show them this message. Make it clear there are enough of us that there is no possibility that Elizabeth Warren could win anyway in a general election. So the scary part is that we have a short time to make sure she doesn't win the Democratic nomination, and everything on the money side is against us. So right now it's a media blockade. We have to get the word out around that blockade somehow. So we have to get this message out somehow. So please share. There's a huge difference between Warren and Sanders, and we need to make that difference crystal clear right now. I hope you have a great Saturday. Hope to see you tomorrow. Keep on burning.